Good morning, friends. I'm very happy to welcome you for this webinar today. It's a very important subject, from stress to success. And we are trying to bring you various aspects of stress and how to deal with it in a very simple manner. It's a very important subject, from stress to success. And I hope that you will like it, and we will have some time for your questions at the end of it, and also your suggestions of what are the subjects on which you would like to know more. So our future webinars will also be tailored based on your responses and your needs. So welcome. As you know, as many of you would know, Environics is a company which has been working actively in the health and wellness segment. We are trying to make people healthy and protect them from invisible threats, which many other people are not addressing. And I'm proud to say that we have been able to impact the lives of almost 20 million people. So thank you once again, and over to Manisha for taking you through this. Manisha is a director and co-founder of the company, and she will take you through her understanding and the international research on stress and how to deal with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ajayji, and thank you everyone for joining in on Saturday morning. It's a very interesting topic, and I must in the beginning say that I'm not a doctor, but what we are presenting is whatever research and the data which we have, more of a scientific background, the meaning, the science behind it, and giving you some of the information which we have also used it, and we have found that a lot of people who have used have benefited, and there's a whole lot of research data which is available on that. So all our facts and figures are based on the research, and it's just an information sharing, and any of the things you want to try, and we would look forward to your feedback also. So without much ado, I'm just starting with the presentation. So just give me a minute. So I hope this is visible to most of you. So this is something which I think so we have been struggling with, that how do we term stress to success? And today we will cover some of the things which we talked about, we have sent you. What is stress, and what is really the science of stress? What do we call stress? What happens when we are in chronic stress? What are the facts, and what are the body changes? What are the mind changes which really happens when we are in chronic stress? What is adrenal fatigue? Because this is something which some of you would have heard, and I was also thinking about it. How does brain and stress actually work together? Or how does the stress affect the brain? And we will also learn some of the physiological tools to manage stress response, because many times when we are in this long stress mode, when we are thinking, we get caught in this thinking, we are not able to come out of that thinking, but there are many things which we can do physiologically to change that part of our process of thinking and overthinking. So we will talk about it, and when is stress powerful and useful? And as I again said, that these are all based on the lot of research which scientists and researchers have done. We have tried to put everything together, which we felt would benefit all of us and you. And that's what we are sharing through our mission of enhancing well-being. And this is part of our mission. So when I was looking for stress, if you see, there are a whole lot of stress data, or actually what is the definition of stress. But first time stress, which is currently used today as the meaning, was coined by Hans Selve. He's also known as father of stress research. He's basically an endocrinologist. And in 1936, he defined what today we know, as most of us know, We have different definition of stress, but this is what most of us know about. This is basically a non-specific general response of the body to any damage or change which we experience, whether it's environmental, whether it's internal, whether it's external. And our stress response is general. It does not vary on what are the stressors which we have in our life, which is causing those stress. So normally we have stress perception as distress. Whereas when we say that this is something which is not good for us, but actually short doses of stress is important for our life. And that is what Hans had described as eustress. So good stress is actually to some extent is good, but when it reaches its maximum level or when it goes into continuous stress, then the graph starts really declining and it goes into distress. So question comes, what really happens when we are stressed? What is the biologically, what is happening? Actually, stress is our survival mode. Our body's way of making us ready to accommodate any kind of threat, whether it's internal or external. In fact, if there is a fire, we all run. We don't think too much. That's the stress response of our body. It makes us survive. And it started coming from our ancestors. And that is the time, what kind of stress they faced. Maximum when they stepped out of their caves, this was the threat of a lion, it would, or any kind of predator animal. So what would that time any human body or anybody will do to save themselves is either fight or flight. So that is the response which our body prepares us to fight or flight in any kind of stressful threat or fear situation. So our body's response to threat and fear is very, very general, whether it is lion or whether it is any kind of threat or fear we are feeling, whether it is physical, emotional, or mental. So what really, when we have to fight and flight, what do we really have to do? How does body prepare? There is a whole chemical reaction happens in our body. We perceive the stress through our eyes. Signal goes to our brain, which is our emotional brain, amygdala. That sends the signal to our cortex, which is our thinking brain. And that sends signals to the heart and the breathing, that you have to breathe faster because you need more oxygen. You need have a muscle tension because you need to run or you need to fight. Your heartbeat needs to be faster because you need to pump the blood in certain areas of your hands and feet because they need to do more work. And certain areas of our body which do not require that time blood when we are running for our survival, we do not send blood to that area, or we restrict the blood circulation to that area. Our vision becomes very tunnel vision, what we call. We just focus on one thing because that is the time focus is required. So actually stress response makes us focus very well, and it also releases certain chemicals in our body, which again reacts differently to every organ. These chemicals are called, you may have heard about it, cortisol and adrenaline. Both these are released from two areas of our body, two places which are called adrenal glands. These adrenal glands are the glands which sits on our kidney, and they release hormone called cortisol from the external side of the gland. And they internally, this is the only gland which is actually also releases neurotransmitter, because inside of that gland is a neuro hormone. So it is called adrenaline. So these are actually the chemical body reacts when you are under stress. Now, what does these chemical do to our body? Cortisol is like a dada hormone. Whenever it steps out, it stops all other chemicals, reactions, or hormones in our body. So this response of our body, what we call fight and flight, is also known as one part of our nervous system, which is what we call sympathetic nervous system. And as you see, this is important, and many times this is necessary for our survival or for our day-to-day functioning. That is the time when your heart, as I said, airway constricts, you have sweat gland, you have less saliva. So many times when we are stressed, we feel very thirsty. That is the time because you have less saliva. But this sympathetic system do not have any off button. So this sympathetic system, once it's activated, it remains activated till the time there is another part of that sympathetic system, which is nervous system called parasympathetic nervous system, which is when we rest and digest, that is the time it gets activated. So that is the time when your pupil constrict, your heart slows down, your airways and bronchital areas of constricts because you have more of a oxygen in your body. Liver is stimulated, so you have better digestion, you release bile. Blood vessels are constricted because now you don't need those kind of body fluid. Digestive system activates, and every other good function of our body or better function of our body is there. Now, these needs to be in control or in sync, not one activated more or not one activated less. So this has to be in sync, and that is what is our body homeostasis, what you call balance. But unfortunately, today, with this short burst of stress, which was earlier there, it's now there are different forms of stress. So one acute stress which we have is very good for our body. It makes us prepare. It makes us do. It makes us motivate. If you're delayed somewhere and you are hurrying up, that's the stress which makes you go reach somewhere on time. And then there is a episodic stress. That means it keeps coming and going, which is also okay. And this is the stress when you will see a lot of people in a very nervous system. Very nervous energies there around them. But the problem comes with chronic stress. Now, what is chronic stress? The stress switch of your sympathetic nervous system forgets to get switched off, and your rest and digest all doesn't get activated. So as I said, lack of short-term stress is not good. In fact, you need that, but long-term stress is what causes. So again, just to quickly recap, short-term stress is actually eustress, what we call. It's good for our body. It's good for our performance. Mid-term stress is something raising the threshold of the stress. So if you have these mid-term stress, it actually raises your threshold. And how do you actually make yourself comfortable with its stress is what it is mid-term stress make you do. And there are two methods by which you can raise your threshold or optimal level of stress. And those are the two tips which you can use in your life. One is what is called Wim Hof breathing. This is Mr. Hof was somebody you would have heard about. He went into the extreme weather and survived. And he developed this method called regular short breath for a short duration, which in our system we also call as Bhastika Pranayama. So if you do that, that means this breathing out, you can also do it with mouth, but this short burst of breathing for 30 to 40 times and then holding it after removing the breath is very good to level up your capacity for a mid-term stress. And that's why whenever you have any issues like throat issue or things like that, and you are feeling that you are going to fall ill, and you can feel there is an irritation in your throat, if you do this breathing, actually it gives a good, because cortisol levels are out in your body, and that fights with the inflammation in the body. Cortisol is very good to fight the inflammation in the body. In fact, when you have inflammation or a lot of disease which creates inflammation in the body, there is a synthetic cortisol which is given to as a part of your medication, which is called prednisone. So this is actually a good thing for a short burst. Second way to take care of and enhance your capacity for optimal strength is the vision. So as I said, whenever you are in stress, your vision becomes very focused. And if you can at that time expand your vision and include other areas of your room or your area, then it can actually make your body brain separate, and it can expand calmness of your body. So this is something which is like you focus and you put your eye in front, and then just start noticing things around you just by straightening your eye and just focusing on one point, but visualizing everything else in your room. If you do this every day for 5-10 minutes, it's actually known to increase your optimal stress level. So these are two of the things which actually we do a lot of times in our lives, but we don't realize that how it can help us. And how, because I used to always wonder how this fast breathing is really helping, because it is actually releasing a lot of cortisol because you are breathing very fast. That's one of the ways by which you show that your body is stressed. But this actually is a way by pranayama always focused on this. Now coming to long-term stress. That is the problem which we are going to talk about. So we have taken care of the effect of short-term and mid-term, which is good. But long-term is what we call actually in a general term is stress or fatigue or adrenal fatigue. And this happens because of multiple things going on in our life, not just lion coming, but now lion is coming in various forms. Our family, our messaging, our social media, everything, work, all that. So this, I want to just focus a little bit on what really happens. What are the facts which actually our body suffers when we are in this long-term stress, which is called cortisol release or high cortisol release all the time. One symptom is we can't sleep. Now, if you notice that you are getting up at 2 a.m. and you are wide awake, and at 8 a.m. when you are supposed to sleep, that is the time you really is supposed to get up. That is the time you get best sleep. This is the one symptom of adrenal fatigue or what we call long-term stress. So when the cortisol has to be highest, that is the time cortisol is lowest, which is 8 a.m. And when the cortisol should be lowest, that's the time the cortisol is highest. So any of us are suffering from that symptom, then we know there is a problem with the stress. Second is your heart. If you have blood pressure going high, heart rate very high, inflammation in the arteries, because you must be wondering that I said cortisol is anti-inflammatory, but cortisol, when there is in a large amount in our body and it's a continuous amount, that is the time there is what we call cortisol resistance is there in our body. Like you must have heard about insulin resistance. When there's too much of cortisol, then your cells resist cortisol. And that is the time when you have these problems, which is anti-inflammatory. It's not inflammatory or anti-inflammatory, it's inflammatory. Immune system. Now, if you remember last time when we were there in our sleep webinar, we talked about something called what is T cells of our body. That is when the T cells are most active during our sleep time. Same thing, actually cortisol turns off our immune system and puts it on a pause for a while. And that is the time it also inactivates our natural killer cells, which is T cells. So if you would notice that you have any autoimmune disease or you get anything, it normally comes after a bout of stress, whether it's mental or loss of some loved one. You will always have some health issue, which is great, like cancer or anything. You will notice that it would have come after a big stress in your life. And that's why stress is bad, because it reduces the immune system. Your memory, cortisol actually is designed to erase short-term emotional stressful memory, because this is the way your body is protecting you, because sometimes emotional stress is what it is and it helps us survive. But it also destroys important part of our brain called hippocampus, which is the relay switch of our memory. So all memory loss or the symptoms of brain fog, can't focus, get fixated on one issue and keep thinking about it 24/7, that is the symptom of adrenal fatigue or high cortisol, losing nutrients. So your potassium is required for building, it's a relaxant, and it is required when you are building cortisol. So that is something which gets diminished, and sodium level goes up, because for every single, you need twice the potassium for X amount of sodium in our body. That's why you see all those water retention problem. Second nutrient which gets lost is B1, vitamin B. This is the key stress removing vitamin, and it induces that thing which is getting lost. So if you do have these two nutrients lost, then you know also there is and the symptom of craving of sodium, because sodium is also required to build your cortisol. So a lot of sodium when you are having cortisol and low tolerance. So if you have low patience, you get very, very irritated by slow drivers. You get irritated by people talking very slow. Ability to concentrate, that is a symptom that you have very high cortisol or adrenal fatigue. So there are a whole lot of things which you would be experiencing in your life. I was also, when I was really looking at this, and I found this very good. Now, a lot of times when we measure this pH level in our system, and we were always used to wonder that some people who were living a very healthy diet and everything had high alkaline pH. Actually, your body needs to be alkaline. We know all that. But during cortisol high, your body actually becomes too alkaline. And if you find that your body is too alkaline, it's not something which needs to be happy about, because the normal alkalinity is good. Because during cortisol, we lose hydrogen ion and we lose the body's acidity. And that's why you have a lot of function of digestion issue, because the acidity is not there to digest food, because digestion is slowed down. So that is why when your digestion is slowed down, you develop things like ulcers and all. So ulcer development is really, really linked to cortisol, apart from various other things. And most importantly is if you see that you have your muscles are getting lost, which normally happens with age, but it can happen because of this cortisol release. Cortisol or this stress hormone is actually increases sugar in our body, because sugar, or they make glucose, they take out the glucose which is stored, because you need that glucose to produce energy. So that's why extra sugar or glucose is made in the body. Normally, a lot of people will see that I've got insulin resistance or I've got diabetes, though I don't eat sugar. I don't eat carbs and things like that. But that may be happening because of your cortisol or high stress. Because when you are under high stress, your non-carb source like proteins and ketones actually are also made into glucose, which is called glucogenesis. And this is something which is very, very critical. And many of us see that we have a lot of belly fat, but we are losing our muscles from your hip or from your thighs. This is one symptom that it can be high stress level. Destroys your bone. And I think so that is pretty clear, because major part of the bone is protein also. And you have, whoever are the ladies who are suffering from menopause, this is something you will get similar symptoms in menopause. Why? Because during menopause, your estrogen levels are very, very low. And your cortisol is produced extra because it reacts or acts almost like estrogen. And that is why you get all those symptoms which are related to, also equivalent to what I have described, could be related to your menopause. That's why during menopause, it's very, very important that you do what I'm going to discuss in following slides, as how do we take care of these issues. Kidney, as I was telling you, that kidney function reduces. Why? Because adrenal is right above the kidney, and it is not able to retain mineral like potassium and magnesium, and retains sodium, which creates fluid retention, which we spoke about. Vitamin D loss. So vitamin D is almost actually is also anti-inflammatory. So anyone who's struggling with autoimmune diseases, vitamin D is the best source or best nutrient for you to fight that, because it is anti-inflammatory. It curbs inflammation, and this is required also to make cortisol. And this also is required to be digested, or vitamin D is actually your fat soluble. So you need carbs and good fats also to absorb this. And gallstone, because we all know there is a stress related gallstones which we develop. So these are some of the facts and figures which I think so many times we do not associate with high stress level, but it is related to high cortisol levels and high what we call chronic stress or chronic fatigue. So apart from mental aspects of things which you all know, I wanted to just focus on some of your physiological aspect, which you may be noticing some of the symptoms, but you do not realize that, or when you climb up the steps, your legs are heavy. That's another way to notice that it can be because of the cortisol. So that's, I think so, that's something which some of the symptoms I've talked about. But actually, how do we measure your stress physiologically? Like when we have heart issue, when we have any other issues, we are able to measure it and we are able to monitor it. And that's why we do these regular checkups. So the best way to measure, apart from these symptoms which I spoke about, is something called heart rate variability. You may have heard about it. Some of you have it in your new watches. There are machines, we also measure that. But this is something which is actually going to tell you what is the status of your fight and flight mode against your rest and digest mode. And are they balanced, or is one up or one too much up? So this is something which you can actually measure to know, apart from various symptoms I talked about. The higher the HRV, the better it is for you. So it is, you are in the rest and digest mode. Why I say better? Because normally we are in fight and flight mode. Otherwise, the balance is what is required. So now coming to last part of our webinar is techniques to beat stress. I think so I've talked a lot about, and some of you would be actually doing multiple things to beat stress. I am just sharing some of these which may come handy to you. So first and foremost is just breathe. And when we say, we are breathing all the time, but this is one way your body reaction starts under stress, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or any other stress. So if you are physically, we know that we end up breathing very fast. And what we need to do is, when you breathe fast, signal goes to the brain that it is stressed, then the heart rate goes up and the whole reaction starts. You don't have control on the whole reaction. The only thing which we have a control on is our breath, which is the starting point of your fight and flight mode. So if you can control or modulate or monitor your breath, you can switch on your parasympathetic or rest and digest switch. So what can we do? What are the types of breathing which we need to do? Normally, you will notice that many times when we are stressed now, we actually don't breathe, or we have very, very shallow breathing. Start noticing. Normally, every 1 minute, you are supposed to breathe approximately 8 to 12 times. That's the right number. Most of us are breathing anywhere between 16 to 18. And next time, just measure it. So when you are breathing between 8 to 12 times, the oxygen absorption is 50% of what we breathe in. And if we slow down our breathing, oxygen absorption increases. If we can make it between 6 to 8, oxygen absorption by our lungs or by our thing increases almost by 75%. And then if we can slow it further, which most of the yogis do, we can increase our absorption level almost by 80 to 85%. So all of us need to notice that we do this kind of breathing, which really called box breathing. And this is, there are multiple, somebody who would be doing some kind of Sudarshan Kriya or any other Kriya. There are variation of this. This is the normal constant one, but if you are practicing something else, that is also okay. That equal count 1, 2, 3, 4 while you take breath, hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, count when you are breathing out 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold again for 1, 2, 3, 4. This is called box breathing. This is the best way, physiological way to get out of the stress. When you're thinking too much, just start doing this. Just 1 minute of doing this will calm your nervous system and calm your body, and you will start focusing on something else. So in Sudarshan Kriya, I think so this box breathing is little different, but anyone can do anything. Second way of breathing is what we call diaphragmatic breathing, which is when you notice any child breathing, if you see their stomach goes up and then it goes down when, or clenched when you are breathing out. This is the best way to breathe, because diaphragms which we have, there's a muscle which actually stimulates our diaphragm, and that is what is we only as a human being have. Most of the mammals don't have that muscle. So we should use that muscle to get a lot of good breathing. And when you do this, actually you do deep breathing. All the oxygen goes down to almost the end of your lungs. So this is another way to just put your hand above your stomach. When you breathe in, see that your stomach goes up. And when you breathe out, see that your stomach goes in. So this is the out and in. Do this again for a couple of minutes. You can break that stress. So this is something, another way of seeing breath, which is what we call physiological sigh. And we do it most of the time. Sometimes when you're very stressed or when you are doing something and suddenly that gets over, you do. This is our sigh. This actually happens once every 5 minutes. We don't realize it happens naturally. If you see any kid crying, how do they cry? That's the way they try and take in more. So this is what is called sigh. When you take one long breath, hold and take another short breath, this actually inflates our alveoli. And this is the way by which more oxygen can go in your body, and then breathe out with your mouth. So this is a fantastic, and there is whole lot of research done on this. Dr. Jack Feldman in his Stanford research and ULCA, actually this is best way to take care of your emotional state. So whenever you are in that rut of thinking too much, do this. It will break your thinking pattern. It will make your emotional state calmer. And there's a whole lot of research and study which has been done on this. And we naturally do it. Whenever you are emotionally stressed, you will realize that you're doing this. That's why when we cry, we do this. When you see the child crying, we do this. Or when you have tears, we do this. That is the way it is. Another very important switch in our body which can activate our de-stress mode or de-stress switch, it is called vagal nerve. So some of you may have heard about it. And this is the nerve which goes from the back of our brain, which is the bottom of our brain, and goes to almost every organ in our body. This is the longest nerve in our body, and it's come from the vaga bone, which is there. It's going everywhere. That's why it's called vagal nerve. And this is our calming nerve. This is the two-way activation. It goes to your digestion, it goes to your heart, it goes through your mouth, it goes through certain part of your neck, it goes through behind your ears. So these are the nerves which is actually your calming nerve. Now, how do we activate this calming nerve? This is, again, your body has given you a lot of tools. If we just do that, and there are multiple ways of doing it, I'll share some of them with you, and you would know about it also. But laughing, actually, when you smile and laugh, this is where your vagal nerve is. And when you smile, you activate this part of your jaw and you activate vagal nerve. When you sing or hum, or when whoever is doing bathroom singing, it's actually very good for you, because the nerve which is in your throat, it gets activated. There are only certain areas which is when these nerves are there on the certain parts of our body, which is on the surface. Otherwise, they travel internal. And that's another way. So that's why in whoever is doing pranayam, that humming sound which we make, which we call bhramari, it's very good to activate your vagal nerve. In fact, it also activates something in your nose, what is called nitric oxide. It makes you release that nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is our vasodilator. Vasodilator means it dilates your blood vessels. So when your blood vessels are constricted, it dilates it, and it's another way to actually measure your heart health. Because if you have low nitric oxide, this is something which a lot of times some people were doing during COVID times and they were finding good about it. That's something. Third way to do is what you do with our kids. Whenever any children is crying, and most of us have had children, so what do? This is another way to activate your vagal nerve, because if you tap here, and which is what in Three Idiots he said, when you are stressed, do all is well. Actually, all is well has a scientific background. This, when you tap here, it is actually activating your vagal nerve. So these are some of the method, or pull your ear, or do this to your ear. These are a couple of things by which you can easily activate those calming nerve of our body, and you have those switches with you. So sing more, laugh more, tap more, and go out. That's the best way to actually take care of your stress. Now, this is another very scientific system of reducing stress. We all know that actually when the cortisol is high, there is another, your body has lot of intelligence. So when your body realizes when I'm stressing someone, they are also releasing a hormone called oxytocin. So when you have cortisol release, simultaneously there is a hormone which is released, which is called oxytocin, and most of us know it as a love hormone or a hug hormone. That is the hormone which actually makes you go out, hug someone, be social, be interactive, and it initiates that interaction in your body. But if you curb that, that is the time when problem starts, because then your body kind of says, you don't do that, I'm going to release another very bad hormone, which is called tachycardia. So there was a research done in California Institute of Technology on bees. When they found that they made bees stay alone, did not do anything with the bee, they didn't allow them to mingle with each other, then this chemical, which is our sinister chemical tachycardia, was actually induced in the body. And that created a lot of fear, aggression, and feeling of not being able to cope up. This actually is the chemical in our body which creates that feeling. So anytime when you have that feeling, actually best way is to get out, be with someone, get your oxytocin out, or release your serotonin, which also gets released when you help someone. So in fact, there was a research done in Harvard in US on thousands of people whom they asked one day that what was your stress level last day or earlier, one day earlier, and 1 week earlier. And they noted it, and they tracked them for 8 years to see who dies faster. So what they found, almost everyone, they found that anyone had stress, actually it increased their mortality rate or percentage. But people who actually stepped out and helped people, they were not in that mortality rate. So this is your body's way of telling you that if you are stressed, go out, help someone, get out, get social, and you will not have stress. Now, what are the other ways of doing it? Acupressure. So some of you, this is just sharing information, but if you want to try it, do consult an acupuncturist or acupressurist, if that's better, if you have never done acupressure in your life. But there are certain points which you can, most of these points don't have any issue in terms of side effect. You can do it just pressing this third eye. So this is what most of the time in our Indian system we would do. Anybody who's going out, you will do a tika. You will press that. You will do many times pressing this. So this is one way actually to calm you down. So when you are stepping out, calming nerve is important. Your chest point, which is another point which if you can massage, because when you are stressed, your oxygen level goes up, lungs are a little more vulnerable. This activates your lung and capacity. And the other point is this. So between your finger and thumb, if you just press this, it's actually relaxes your muscle. So it's a pain point also. Anytime you're having a lot of pain or you are having muscle tension, this is the point to press it. So these are some of the tips and tricks which you can use. Some more are what can you eat? So I have spoken about what are the nutrients which gets lost when you are under stress, and those are the supplements which you need to actually take. And vitamin B1 is, if you go and measure, this is one vitamin which we will be very low for all of us. And the best way to get, and it's very difficult to measure vitamin B1, so you don't worry about measuring it. But this is the vitamin which is required for our brain, required for our nervous system. And how do you get it? Is through something called nutritional yeast. For all the people who are vegetarian, mostly it comes in animal meat, but people who are vegetarian can use nutritional yeast, but use unfortified version. And that is best way. 1 or 2 spoons of nutritional yeast, if you add to your daily diet, and you can mix it with salad, you can mix it in dahi, mix it in any way. It doesn't have, it's almost like a cheese kind of a thing. So it doesn't have a very bad taste. It's good. And you can mix it with various things. Just try for 1 week. If you have bad dreams, this is something which immediately will get cured. Vitamin D, as I said, this is something which gets less. So it's an anti-inflammatory. Go out in the sun, morning sun, for minimum 15 to 20 minutes. First 1.5 hours of sunrise is the best time, or last 1.5 hours of sunset is the best time. What we take as the synthetic vitamin D, we all take, but it actually also bothers our liver and bothers other aspect of our kidney. So try and see if you can take vitamin D in a natural manner. If you can't, obviously take the synthetic one. Vitamin K2. And it is again very, very much available in animal fat, but vegetarians, dark green leafy vegetables has to be part of your daily diet. Magnesium and potassium, we all know green nuts, seeds, dry beans, whole grain, wheat germ, wheat and oat bran. So all greens, nuts and seeds, these are the things which you need to include in your daily life. And let me say, all of us are stressed. So it's in some moderation, some are able to manage it, some are not. So this can be part of our life. Omega-3 fish oil. So this is something which would be difficult for vegetarians because we don't eat fish. So you may have to supplement with fish oil. Otherwise, chia seed and pumpkin seed, but that you need to take in a whole lot of amount to actually get your omega-3 right. And that's also very important for your brain, because your brain, maximum brain structure is fat. So if we don't take healthy fats, we are not letting our brain function well. So all of you who have removed fat from your diet because of various, I think so, non-information, healthy fat is important, because most of the above vitamin I talked about, B1, D, K2, these are all fat soluble vitamin. So if you don't have fat in your diet, or calcium, all these are fat soluble vitamins. Probiotics and prebiotics, very, very important for our gut bio, because gut is something which gets affected. In fact, our gut bio also release a lot of vitamin D. So in fact, our gut microbiome, if it is good, it makes this. And 90% of our serotonin is actually stored in our gut. So if you want to be happy, you need to take care of your gut. That's why we always say we have this gut feeling, or we have this happiness in the gut whenever we are happy. Either we have something good going in our gut or bad going when we are not happy. So this is another very, sorry, replication is here, but another very nice supplement, which is Indian supplement. Now it's going all worldwide, and there's a whole lot of Westerners who are talking about it, is ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is very, very good for your stress release. So this is one herb which we have been using in our system, and this has been now researched a lot to cause reduce stress. As I said, another thing, expand your life. So what happens when we are stressed? We feel very claustrophobic. How do you remove that claustrophobicness? Is to go out in the nature. That's where the expansion is. So you need to get out. In fact, people who are struggling with anxiety, struggling with emotional thing, and struggling with a lot of stress, morning or evening walk in the nature is the best cure. Any kind of exercise, when you're doing very stressful exercise, increases your cortisol. So when you are stuck in that stress, in fact, start with the walking and get your stress normalized, and then do all those heavy strength training and cortisol increase. What else? These are some other ways. Lifestyle, as I spoke about, sleep, because that's the only time when your cortisol is less. So sleep is very important. Balance, we all know that. Breath and exercise is very important. So being active is very important, because when we have stress, when we have emotional, mental stress, actually our body is still behaving. So it has released all that, increase the heartbeat, and there's a lot of blood in your hand and feet. If you don't use that, it is going to turn into aggression. And that's the time when we are stressed, we are very jittery, because we are not moving our body. If you move your body that time, in fact, there is automatically off switch, which comes as a parasympathetic system. Devices, social media, we all know that. Healthy food, I have spoken enough about. Drink a lot of water. Ensure that you have 2 servings of fruit and vegetables in a day to fix your nutrition. And obviously, meditation, whatever you call it, deep breathing, yoga nidra, Jacobson exercise, or for people who are struggling with mental health, CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy, is very good. And all these are available. But one thing which I didn't know and I learned is that sometimes we say, now we don't have stress. I'm living a very sedentary, nice lifestyle. I don't have stress. But stress is stored in your body of the past. So till the time you remove that stress from your muscle and from your body, you will still be in that mode. So anyone who's feeling that I have lived my work life and I was stressed very tired, now I'm not stressed, you need to remove that stress from your body. And these are the technique, which is massage and things like that, will remove that stress from your muscle and muscle, because stress is stored in your body. And if you don't do any technique to remove it, it's going to create problem for you. So last but not the least, so it's how you deal with the thoughts or the situation that defines your stress. Stress, when, if you know that when we go out and walk or we do a lot of exercise, actually we stressing our body, but we are feeling good. Why? Because actually hormone or chemical is released when we feel that whatever we are doing is helping us in the larger goal. So anything, time, it's your brain which decide what is that outside environment which is making you stressful. It's not the environment, it's not that thing, it's not that person, it's how you take that load is going to decide in your brain and the mind and your breathing, that whether it is good or bad. So this is something which is what is important. Now quickly we'll go to what are the factors which can cause stress, and we should try and avoid them. Though I've spoken a lot about it, but just to quickly, so stress is not just physical, mental, emotional, but if you are eating toxins and food and in the environment, then you are causing stress to your system, and the cortisol will be released to fight that toxins. So all those packaged food is also causing stress in the body. People thinking, thoughts, we have talked about that. And again, as I said, it's how you react is what your body is actually perceiving, not the people and the thought. Work, this is one of the stressors. So colleagues, workload, financial matter. Again, you need to define what is bothering you and either learn to disassociate with yourself or get out of those situations. Invasion of social media, you need to which is what I'm doing now after my last webinar last month. And that's when I realized that half an hour before you sleep and half an hour after you get up, don't let your body go through that social media and stress. Your brain takes time to wake up. Your brain takes time, your body takes time to sleep. Give yourself that time. Don't let the world come to you that time. Be with yourself. That's more important. And coming to what we have been doing research a lot, the kind of electro smog which is there in our environment. All these wireless technology which we use, and I'm going to tell little more about it, how they affect and create stress in our body and the environment which we live in, because that's again very, very important. So what are the built environment stress? As an architect, my research was in that field, that how does our environment affect us? And what I realized, there is a phenomena which is invisible to us, but it is called geopathic stress. This is the phenomena which is actually there everywhere. It's natural. It's 20% of Earth's surface is affected by it. It's the emission from the ground which is actually affecting your workstation or your sleep area, can cause stress in your body because it affects the vibrational frequency of cell. If I put you on a geopathic stress line, within 5 to 10 minutes, your heartbeat will go up. Wouldn't that be a stressful situation? If that remains up, because the sleep and the study area or the workstation is where you spend every day for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. And there's been enough research done on that. In fact, we have done so many offices. We find that every office has 2 or 3 jinx seats where anyone who sits there leaves the organization or asked to leave. So nobody wants to sit there. And we find 60-70% it relates to this phenomena called geostress. If your seat is on that geostress, you will be struggling a lot. I'm not saying every time you will not be non-performing, because it again depends on you, but the struggle will be higher. And there are ways to measure it. Now, coming to the fact that is really digital technology is important for our stress, or is digital well-being can take care of the stress. So we knew all that. There's a whole lot of data available. But when we did this research with AIMS, that's the time we got also a wake-up call. Though we have been working on this for almost 10 years now, but when we did recently, 2 years back, we did a research with AIMS where we did it with their neurosurgical department. And there we found just by 5 minutes call like this with your phone near your ear, all your brain waves get affected, alpha, beta, theta, and gamma. And that is something by our solution, which I'll talk a little more about. By doing that, we were able to take care of your alpha and theta waves. That means your alpha, which is your calming waves, and your theta, which is again your calming waves, both can get affected by technology, wireless technology, and with solution, it can get improved. So this is something which is there. And today our homes are full of this. Our offices are full of this. Well, it's part of our life and we have to live with it. In fact, I'm talking to you and I'm fortunate enough to share all this information because of this beauty, what we call technology and wireless technology. So we can't live without it, but we have to also take care of this. So what other things which we were able to do with our solution, which 2 things I spoke about was resting heart rate and heart rate variability. These both are your stress indicators. And we have done now research with Apollo, AIMS, Medanta, with our solutions, which now Environics has, and I'll share with you quickly. We have been able to improve heart rate variability by 7.6 to 7.9% in 2 different cases, in AIMS study as well as in Apollo study. So this is something which shows that environment which we work on and technology both can be a contributor for your stress, and both can easily be taken care by ensuring that both are good for you in terms of making it healthier. So these are some of our wellness solution product. We work a lot on stress, and that is our promise with work, what we are doing, that we are able to take care or reduce your stress level. How? By improving your heart rate variability. And this is what I talked to you about. So we have solution for mobile phones, which is EnviroChip or any of your wireless digital technology. For external sources like mobile tower, we have a solution called EnviroGlobe. We have EnviroMat for geostress on your bed or for electrosmog in your room. And we had developed this something recently, which is your this is what I'm wearing. It's we call it EnviroCare, but it is basically a device which can actually help you reduce your stress and enhance your immunity. And that means it increases your heart rate variability. That is what the Apollo test shows us. So these are things which I feel we can look at it as a stress to success. Is things which are in your control, you take care of them. Which things which are not in your control and stressors, change your thought about it. I know it's easy to say, but it's not really hard to do if we put our mind to do it. So take action for things you can control and leave the things which you can't control. And that is what I think so our mode or road to stress to success. And this is something which again, just taking another couple of minutes and then we'll question. This is something our purpose of Environics. And through our 3 solution, which is what we are doing, is helping people achieve this. It is through wellness at home. We make environment better for you, healthier for you. We make your technology safer for you. And we have introduced something called personal well-being, where we are able to measure your not just physical status of your health, but mental and other aspect, which is very important. Because we feel what gets measured improves, what gets measured and monitored improves substantially. So this is a new technology which we have brought in from US, which in 5 minutes can scan your body for 30 plus parameter, including some of the things I talked about, your serotonin level, your dopamine level, your heart rate variability, your inflammation, your C-reactive protein, and whole lot of other wellness parameter, which is very, very critical for you, which also gives you something, what is your present wellness index. And this is a beautiful system. And I'm not saying just because we are doing, I really found this very, very effective, because this has been developed in US and it's been tested, FDA approved, and it doesn't require any time. So I would in fact welcome all of you and thank all of you who are part of this, that anytime you are in Delhi and surrounding area, we don't have a retail outlet for this. We don't do it for retail. We do it mainly for corporate. But you are there. You are welcome to come to our office and give a call or give Ajayji a call, or just leave an email, something. This is a beautiful system, and come and experience. This is our way of saying thank you to you for being part of this. And this is something which I would invite you to join in our mission, which is our mission to enhance the well-being for 100 million. And that's a huge number, since we have only achieved 6 million to 20 million now. But this is something we can achieve with all your help. So thank you so much for being, and we can now open for questions if there are, or observations. I would be happy to take that.
There is a question by Dhanendra Kumar Ji that for 5 minutes for people who are aged or others, we can share some WhatsApp sharing, that what are the 2, 3, 4 things that can be done. But I think we can do the breathing as advised by Manisha. I think that's a very good thing. As far as this Jacobson, tensing your body, relaxing your body, but the breathing is the most important thing. And of course, electronic, not looking at your TVs or your mobile phones at least half an hour before you sleep or immediately when you get up. And of course, trying to see that you use technology responsibly. Anything else, Manisha, I want to say?
No, I think so. That takes care of 5 minutes, sir. So that's enough. And anyone, before you leave, I would like to know, because this is our effort to kind of share information with this platform is what we are planning to do every month, a webinar on things which really matter to our well-being, things which sometimes we miss. So there are a couple of thoughts more for next webinar, but I would love to know your thoughts, what you would like to was to do it. We have thought, which maybe MD will share with you. There are certain thoughts which were coming. One is on your heart health. We thought maybe next webinar could be on the heart health. And when we talk about heart health, not just what we know, but idea is looking at in the wellness scientific realm. Second, we thought about is how do we make our buildings healthier? That is my favorite topic. So that is something which we can speak on. Or third thing, which has recently now becoming my favorite topic is brain. So how do we really, because many times, most of the time, till around a year back, I never really bothered about my brain. The more I'm reading, I think so we are looking at every aspect of our life and strengthening that. But what about our brain, which is something which governs everything? So how can we look at our brain health to take care of Alzheimer's in future and things like that? So let me know what you would like out of these three, which should be our next webinar. Please put it in our chat box. I would be happy to, we will take care of that and we will do, or if there's something else which you would like, or if there are any other questions, observations, or feedback, because that is what helps us really, really kind of go forward. So that would be welcome. And anyone
and
also.
Manish is asking what is the, not sure what vitamin B or what is yeast. So yeast is something which we put, bread is made out of.
This is not that yeast, sir. That is a different yeast. This is called nutritional yeast. If you Google it, you will find it. This is not a yeast which we put in the bread. It's called nutritional. It's like that, but it is healthy. That yeast is not healthy. This is actually very healthy for, and if you Google it, you will find it. I have been using it for last 1 month now, and I do feel there is much, much less stress in terms of I'm able to cope, but use the unfortified version, because that is important. Fortified version, again, they put a lot of chemicals to fortify it with vitamin D and things like that. So that is the best vegetarian alternative for vitamin B1. There are a lot of vegetarian alternative for B and improve your gut microbiome. Because even if you take yeast and if you don't have a better good gut bacteria, it will not absorb.
कोई चीज समझ में नहीं आया, आपने कहा कि थोड़ी हिंदी में बोलिए, थोड़ी अंग्रेजी में बोलिए, तो अगर कुछ है तो यू कैन अपना हाथ उठा के आप पूछ सकते हैं। और यीस्ट हिंदी में क्या कह रहे हैं कि हिंदी में क्या बोलते हैं वो?
यीस्ट को मुझे नहीं पता, मैं ढूंढ के सर आपको बताऊंगी। मैं ढूंढने की कोशिश की थी, पर वो ऑनलाइन, क्योंकि इस पे थोड़ा रिसर्च, वेस्टर्न रिसर्च है, मैंने कुछ और भी कोशिश की ढूंढने की कि और क्या है इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में, मुझे मिला नहीं है B1 का alternative. So अगर आपको कुछ मिलेगा, there is a person, doctor called Dr. Berg, who is doing a lot of research on that, and he has a lot of videos on YouTube. He has a lot of data on this. There is again a Dr. Amin who's doing a lot of research on the brain. So these are the research. In fact, if you like, maybe after this, whoever has joined, I will send those books and the research data, which is my reference point. So you may be able to. Yes, kafir is useful, sir, Vikram, sir, because that is something, any kind of whether it's kafir or kanji or anything, which is basically fermented food, improves your gut bacteria. And that is very good. So if you don't have milk difficulty, or you can have, then it is good. Otherwise, take kanji, which is in our India system, again, a fermented food or fermented vegetables. But ferment food is good for your khameer. It could be khameer, but it's yeast in Hindi is khameer, but nutritional yeast, I don't know if that is khameer or not.
Okay, so there are some suggestions on what sessions we can do, heart, brain, and also Harminder has suggested some recommended exercise for various age groups. So we'll see how to put that. And anything else, Manisha?
So no, there is a question by Rima that how to build short-term memory. Rima, short-term memory, two things very critical. Sleep, because that is the time when your short-term memory gets stored in your body and becomes memory. So actually, if you don't sleep 6-7 hours or complete your sleep, then that memory you will not remember because it's not stored in your filing system. Second is breathing, because that's
You're
your
frozen,
brain fog
Manisha.
comes when there is less oxygen in your. So is am I okay now?
Yeah. Mhm.
So breathing is another one thing by which you can improve oxygen of the brain and improve your memory, because your brain has only 2% of the body, but it uses 20% of our oxygen intake. So that's the way you need to help the brain to remember. So मैं ये नेक्स्ट टाइम काफी हिंदी में भी बात करूंगी. नॉर्मली मैं हिंदी में बात कर लेती हूँ, बट आज somehow I ended up talking a lot in English. So I will take care of your suggestion कि हिंदी इंग्लिश मिक्स में हम बात करेंगे. Seminar on various recommended exercise. सर सेमिनार तो कर लेंगे एक्सरसाइज पे, पर डिफिकल्ट ये होगा कि बिकॉज इट्स अ वेबिनार, हम बता नहीं पाएंगे आपको एक्सरसाइज कैसे करें. So we will have to do something physical on this because exercise is very important to show. तो वो वेबिनार में करना बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाएगा हमारे लिए. So
देखेंगे, कोशिश देखते हैं कोई तरीका निकाल. अच्छा, एनिमेटेड, हाँ, Harminder said, so we can do animation. Good idea.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we will send recordings to all of you, and we'll urge you to also pass it on to other people, whoever you like. So we will send you, or it will be on our YouTube link, which we will send.
So Rima ji, it is on our sleep. Is if you go to Environics World on YouTube, you will find our sleep webinar recording there, and you can see it. I'll also share it through a link to you directly.
Thank you very much. So,
Thank you everyone.
If there are no more questions, we close it. I think we have overshot our time a little bit. तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप लोगों का सबका हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए, और इसी तरह से आपसे बातचीत चलती रहेगी. थैंक यू वेरी मच. नमस्कार. थैंक यू.
Bye-bye.